Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first Gitcast podcast episode of 2019. I'm sorry I haven't been doing so many videos on this channel recently. I've just been dealing with doing a lot of studying and also spending a lot of time with family and friends over Christmas and New Year's. But as your most gracious host, Gitbag the Great, I have deigned to return, and as with this series, I will also be continuing on with the For Honor playthrough, as well as other disparate random gaming videos in the very near future as well. So hopefully we can get back on track as soon as possible. And I'm sorry about the delays and nothing much being uploaded here for a while, other than maybe a couple of I think. Oh no, those were on the Titan's Head channel. I was thinking the alcohol reviews I've been doing recently. But yeah, anyway, Happy New Year's and Happy Christmas to everyone at home watching this, and also to today's always loyal host, or co-host rather. Yeah, it's everyone's good old favourite Southampton fan, Flash Suppressor. So as is maybe like a slight alteration of the usual tradition of asking us how our weeks have been, I'll ask instead, how was your Christmas and New Year's? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I also forgot as well that Burns Night is quite close to New Year's as well, isn't it? Nice. Yeah, I think I did spend a Burns Night round at my dad's once with him and his Scottish wife, and we had haggis and smash and stuff. It was amazing. It's haggis is one of the most underrated foods, I think. Even the vegetarian one is nice. So, what else did you do for New Year's then? What? Yeah, now you fucking you have to admit fucking mobile technology comes to your rescue. Wait, why? Oh. I find it really hard to sort of read paper maps because my attention span just goes all over the place. So I pick up on all different details at once, and then it's hard for me to concentrate. Yeah. Nice, good stuff. So, what kind of... Oh yeah, those two evil wackos. God. They were a pair of right, like, weirdos when you think about it, though. Yeah, in a very, like, authoritarian manner as well. Yeah, I mean, like, dictators are always very interesting sort of, like, psychological case studies for me. Like, even though I find them absolutely abhorrent, when I was studying the Second World War in my GCSE history lessons, I always found like sort of the way that Hitler became such a screwed up person to be quite interesting, because he of course was like probably quite psychologically disturbed. So just the way he got to that point is fascinating, even though he is a vile, irreprehensible person. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's strangely true. Even though people like to think otherwise, it's often the case that that's the complete opposite. Oh fuck. Well, that was shocking. So moving on from my very rapid death. What did you get for your Christmas presents? Oh Jesus Christ! Oh God, we've done terribly. So yeah, what did you get for Christmas? Oh, nice. Yeah, we can have like. Oh yeah, and if I ever get. Oh, nice. I mean, yeah, because I got your family. I think I got your dad a Toblerone, your sister some Terry's chocolate orange pieces, and then I got your mum like. Oh yeah, I got your mum those praline shells, but it wasn't like the Gruyere ones. It was just like some standard like co-op ones, I think. What did I get you again? Sorry, could you say that again? You broke up a little bit. Oh yeah, the one done by Heston Blumenthal. Yeah. I don't know if they're still doing it actually. I mean, they're still doing the lemon sherbet gin that he designed, but I'm not so sure about the very middle class cherry baked or tart flavoured vodka. Good. Yeah, yeah. It tastes. It's got a real taste of like marzipan in it, hasn't it? Yeah, with like a hint of like cherry sort of syrup in it or something. Oh, honestly, if anyone is like rich enough or middle class enough to get some, I mean, it's not super expensive, but like, I definitely recommend trying it once in a while because it is fucking superb. And then what other kinds of al? Well, I mean, yeah, I mean you are German, so I would expect you to be more into like wines, beers, and like schnapps. So what other alcohols did you get for Christmas then? Oh, good. Hmm. That sounds like a very hearty drink. Oh, the recent one. Okay. I, Oh yeah, it's an old classic. Also heavily inspired Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell as well. Yeah, it's quite. It's like fascinating, the history of sort of like how sci-fi fiction has developed from like American like pulpy camp, cheesy sci-fi comics in the 20s and 30s. Uh, you know, I was, yeah, it was him, but like I was almost about to say L. Ron Hubbard, but then I remembered. Wait, no, hang on, he's the guy who invented fucking Scientology, and who cannot write for shit. Yeah, it's like I mean, if you ever need to see how bad his writing is, you just watch uh, Battlefield Earth. Well, it's not necessarily. It's no, well, it isn't directly sort of written by him, but it was in large part based off of Scientologist literature, so it technically is a Scientologist story. It's holy shit, really? Fucking hell! What was he like? Both of them, I guess. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like one of the most seminal sort of like immigrant writers of like the modern age. Yeah, and he is. I like, for anyone who doesn't know much about him, he is a genuinely fascinating person. Oh yeah, yeah, which I mean, okay, like the film wasn't objectively speaking as good as the book, but I still think it was all right. It was fun enough as like a cheesy popcorn flick. Yeah, 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 and then it kind of misses the point of the original. Yeah, yeah, it's that. Yeah, I think if you kind of like don't, if you kind of like forget that it's based off of a book, though, you can enjoy it as like a cheesy popcorn action flick. But at the same time, it is generally not as good of a story as the actual book itself. And like you said, it does kind of miss out a large number of beats and actual sort of like points that were like you said, very much central to the message of the original story. No. And they kill fucking hundreds of people in the film, so it's like, you're kind of like... Yeah. And yet, like, their lack of... Yeah, and like, the fact that they don't rebel is, like, testament to a part of their character in that they're arguably more of an understanding and peaceful race than the humans, which is quite a deep and... Yeah. Yeah, because you could argue that the way that humans follow political parties is kind of somewhat robotic or, like, very routine in a certain way. So yeah. Which, arguably, they should be. I mean, like, I'm not going to claim, like, all of the writing in Star Wars is amazing and, like, absolutely perfect, but, like, it does have this underlying theme of, like, is there sort of, like, this destiny of good versus evil, or is the world rather, like, dictated by different shades of grey? It's, you know, a different message, but all the same, it's, like, it's an interesting one at the same time. Oh, God. But, yeah, don't worry, I switched around to try and help out. I can't guarantee anything. Yeah, and I've got a 17-pounder against the front of a T28. I'm loading a PCR. But yeah, so did you get anything else particularly special for Christmas then? Nice! Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I actually got some Lego for my brother and his wife for Christmas, but it was only like these little models, these little miniature ones that are about like £5 each. And I got them specifically so they could like build them and then like have them on their desks at home or at work or something, or like on the windowsill or in their kitchen or something like that. You know, just something nice and different to have on the windowsill. And I got my brother's wife a hover speeder one, and I got from Star Wars, and I got my brother an AT-RT walker, and he sent me a picture of it like on WhatsApp with the caption "Tropical Combat Unit ready to deploy," and it was just like placed in between the two of his like plant pots. But yeah, and I always like giving people either presents I've either made myself or that they can like build themselves or like use for something. So like I do really like giving people either photo calendars I've designed on Vistaprint or like a Lego model or something, because it's something that either you can make yourself and get a bit of like satisfaction out of, or that has like long-term use. So it's like, yeah. Ooh. Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Not really, no. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think it's definitely like a signifier of getting older. Uh, oh, did you? Nice. Nice. I well, just being constantly shit-faced. I I haven't gotten as much alcohol, I don't think, as you have this Christmas. I mean, to be fair, you did give me a fair old bit of booze because you gave me the what do you call it? The uh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so like we didn't drink. Yeah, so we didn't drink all the sect. We drank just for anyone who doesn't know, sect is like mildly sweet German sparkling wine. It's really really fucking good. Um, but yeah, and Flash Suppressor gave me a couple of bottles of it for Christmas to have with my family. We only ended up having the white one with our Christmas dinner, so somewhat cheekily, even though you said it was for my family, I ended up taking the bottle of rosé one back to Brighton with me. Um, and and yeah, and then of course, for anyone who can't see it, Flash Suppressor gave me a bottle of Gipfelstürmer. Yeah, and it's like a very like nice traditional German liqueur that's made out of herbs, in a kind of similar vein to Jägermeister. Although you kind of did imply that this was nicer. Yeah, we yeah, yeah. Although to be fair, Guinness is pretty good. I mean, I, I would say out of those three drinks, out of like Strongbow, Guinness, or like um, Jägermeister, I would definitely say Guinness was the best one. So yeah, for my Christmas presents, I got those ones from our boy here, Flash Suppressor. And then what else did I get? So from my nan and granddad, I got a pen, Imperial War Museum pen actually, that they found at like a charity sale near where they live. And it's because it was one from 2017, but it's still very nice. It's in a really nice little cardboard sort of case that with like a really good insignia from the Imperial War Museum on it. And it's good as well because I just really needed like a nice classy pen that I can have in my pocket for like when I need to sign things, like when I'm like out and about or something. And then they also got me a pair of really nice thick gloves. They got me a box of those Lindt Lindor chocolate balls, but it was the orange flavoured ones. Um, and then they also got me a couple of other things. They gave me some money as well to like spend on like whatever, like be it like groceries, clothes, books, that sort of thing. And for my dad, it was much the same. He got me a big Charlton Athletic poster as well as a book about one of Charlton's former managers, Theo Foley. And then he also got me a whole bunch of stuff. He got me 2 different jars of mustard from Belgium. one seeded, one Dijon. He got me a jar of Cornichon gherkins, a piece of Soissons dried sausage, two different very stinky but very nice Belgian cheeses, a bottle of Belgian blonde ale, which is kind of like a cross between ale and beer, and I had that on like not on. I had that on the day that I got back to Brighton on the 2nd of January, and it was superb. Like I only had one bottle of it, but so I knew I wouldn't get some for a while at least, and I savoured every bit of it. It was so good. Oh. Ooh, oh, nice. Did you also get like something like some onion marmalade or something to go with it? Ooh, nice. Oh. Yeah, I've been doing that a lot recently with the cracked cheese my dad got me. I've been having it with pesto or onion marmalade on like some crackers that my nan and granddad gave me. It's so nice. But yeah, so I got that, and then my dad also got me some Belgian chocolate truffles, some chocolate covered fudge, and then you'll really like this because he was in Scotland for Christmas, spending it with his wife's family. He also got me some iron brew flavoured jelly pasty. Fruit, you know, like fruit pastels, but they were like iron brew flavoured, and they are fucking incredible. They are so good. And so he got me that. He also got me some Scottish oatcakes, which I'm going to have with the cheese as well, actually. What else? There was also there's a couple of other things. See what to get. Oh yeah, there was also some Scottish all butter shortbread. There was some also some Belgian Jules de Stroopwafels biscuits, which are like these Dutch-inspired biscuits. They're very traditional and popular in Belgium and Holland, and they're kind of like shaped like waffles, but they're very like crunchy, and they're quite like caramelized flavoured, and they're so nice with like a cup of hot chocolate or something. They're really good. Honestly, that if you ever go to Belgium or Holland, get yourself a few packets of that, because they are honestly sublime. Especially with like a cup of tea or some hot chocolate or something. And then from my nan and granddad I got the chocolates, stuff I already mentioned. And I also got a bit more money from my dad again to spend on things like clothes, games, books, bits and bobs and all that. From my brother, he made me a bunch of homemade stuff. He made me a homemade loaf of bread, a homemade jar of green pesto, and also a few homemade cinnamon and ginger biscuits, and he also got me this strange board game actually that I've kept at my mum's for the time being, where it's kind of like it's really strange. It's kind of like a cross between Minesweeper, Monopoly, and Super Spy, but but he said it's a very easy, quick game to get a hang of, and it is, to be fair. And it's also like something that's really good to play with between you and like say 5 or so other mates. When you're like at the pub or something, he said it's like a really good drinking game actually, and I played a couple of rounds with it with him, my mum, and his wife actually on Christmas Day, and it's actually a really fun game, and it's easy to get the hang of. I can't remember what the name of it is though. And then my mum, again, just gave me some money to buy myself some things, as well as a whole bunch of sweets. Like she got me like 2 panettones, like a thing of Thornton's chocolate covered brownie bites. What else? Oh god, there's so much. She also got me some health pills actually, because to be fair, I personally think, I don't know about what you think of this, but more so around January and February is when I get colds and flus, rather than like December or so. So she got me a thing of some high strength cold and flu tablets, some zinc and vitamin C tablets, and also some fish oil and omega-3 capsules, just so I could like keep my body in proper function during the cold winter months. And then she also got me actually a really good pair of like cycling gloves, because I've been cycling to training courses and work all the time recently. So like the fact that I have like a pair of thin but like high grip cycling gloves has really helped recently. And it's good as well because they're so thin but also so precise with how the fingers are. I can actually like quite easily use a phone while I'm on my bike. So it's and they've got like lots of like grooves on like the further fit out fingers on them, so like the grip is like really excellent, so like your hands almost like never fall off or slip off the bike handles. And oh, the ones that like sort of like you can like half temporarily remove or something. Yeah, those are that's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's quite ingenious, actually. Mm. Oh, damn. That's nice. I think... Oh, yeah, you did tell me, yeah. Yeah. God. I was so jealous of that. Oh, yeah, you did say, yeah. Because, I mean, to be fair, though, they didn't make that many anyway to begin with. Yeah. So, like, barely enough to make, like, half a battalion. I mean... And even though they weren't enormously like mobile or fuel efficient, they did have a lot of firepower. Yeah. 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 Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like the fucking like the mother tanks as well as like the FT-17 come along. Which, by the by, I think the FT-17 is quite arguably the most underrated tank of all time. I mean, it's not necessarily out of its combat capabilities, because it obviously wasn't super overpowered or anything, but just simply because of the fact that it was so manoeuvrable, tactically flexible, and people forget that it was actually the first turreted tank. Yeah, the first tank ever to use a traversing turret, which is such an underrated like development in like that kind of like technology. Mm. And it's no wonder why the French are still using it up until the 1930s. Mm. I'm trying to remember what was it called?
It's just
I have a vague idea of what you're talking about, actually. Phil? Sorry, I just... Hmm. No, but rather that it was just like an experimental like design. Yeah, like a number of like the higher tier tanks and model tanks are. Oh. I always find those experimental designs fascinating though, because you just think like there's such an indication of like how warfare was like fought at the time, or like how they thought it was going to develop, and like then of course things developed very much differently, and like we're just looking back at it now in hindsight, it's so weird and so funny. Like some of the designs that the Russians had in particular for experimental type tanks were just fucking bizarre. Like they like the original yeah. Okay. Although I will still say, like, one of the most fascinating tank designs I've ever seen, or sorry, tank destroyer designs, because fuck you Sweden, the S-tank is not a fucking heavy tank, it's a tank destroyer. But yeah, one of the most fascinating tank destroyer designs ever is the S-tank, because just simply because of the fact that even though it's quite a large machine, it can operate quite easily with a crew as little as 2 people. How? Right. Well, you just had to watch your fire, otherwise you might get banned. What? It must say, like, go onto messages, it will say there how long you've been banned for. Yeah, tell me how long you've been banned for. Alright, well, dear God, alright, we'll stop recording for a second and we'll go into warships. Alright. Alright, and we are back. This time we will be recording the rest of this episode of Gitcast podcast on World of Warships, because as you guys just saw, Flash Suppressor was temporarily banned for accidentally team killing someone on World of Tanks. It was purely accidental, so if anyone from Wargaming sees this, please don't, permanently ban Flash Suppressor. It's purely an accident. I don't know if I'm even close to being popular enough for me to get noticed, but yeah, we've decided to switch over to World of Warships for the rest of the video, and yeah, it's just variate it up a bit, so to speak. So, yeah, Tier 5 destroyers. What were we saying? We were, oh yeah, we were talking about, experimental sort of, tank designs during the Second World War. Yeah, or even the mouse to a certain degree, because it was actually built, but at the same time it was nowhere near practical enough to use in combat situations in on the domestic front in Germany after the Allies actually invaded the country. So because it was just its gauge was too large for it to travel on German train tracks, and on top of that it was just too heavy and big to travel on most, if not all, German bridges. Although arguably not as egregiously, because the Jag Tiger was very heavy, but the but the mouse was just colossal. Like, did it ever see any actual combat though? Hmm. Hmm. So I swear the TOG 1 was originally just designed to have machine guns, wasn't it? Hmm. I always joked to my mates, considering the TOG 2 has side doors on it, you can actually make it into a mobile hot dog stand. Or you could have a frying pan on top of the engine. Or have it in a... Or you could convert the engine into a rotisserie machine. Yeah. Oh god, no, but now I say that, I actually feel like really going out and getting some rotisserie chicken. But out of all the experimental tank designs that there were, what would you say was your your favourite out of just the ones that were just the most weirdest and... Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. There's a warship on this game actually. It's one of the Russian premium destroyers. Yeah, and I think it's got something crazy about a dozen or half a dozen guns, and I think something 9 or 10 torpedo launchers, or something absolutely ridiculous like that. I'm trying to remember what it was called. But it's just this weird approach of just if it has not got too much gun, it's not good. It's just like such a weird. It's just such a weird approach to like warfare. It's just like we just need more guns. But then again, I guess there's like some sort of like crude sort of like practicality to it in that regard. Like you've got to admit, like even though like mobility and sort of like protection are probably more important aspects, it's like at the same time it's like, you know, if you did just generally have more guns than your opponent, you probably would win at some point. I mean, you know, it's just like look at. Although I would say like mobility and tactics are always more important, you know. I mean, just look at the Battle of the Spanish Armada. A far larger force against a much smaller British Navy, and yet the English come out on top just purely based out of the fact that they have faster ships with better armament, and with arguably much superior leadership and tactics. I mean, what would you say? Which would you say is more important? Yeah. 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 It's like I remember that I once had this match of Empire Total War where I was like faced off against a much larger opponent online, and not only did they have a larger force than me, they also had much more ranged infantry than I did, and through like better use of like terrain, I was able to pretty much just eviscerate their army. And then I went to the other side of the map to help my ally, who was in a bit of trouble. And it was because I'd kind of set up my forces in a way that like funneled his army into like this kind of like tunnel sort of like situation where like they were just unable to like outflank me, and even though I had a much smaller force, it was like this Thermopylae situation where, yeah, I saw that. That was crazy, but like it was kind of like this Thermopylae situation where like um where like, you know, through like use of like terrain as like kind of like a funneling system, um I I you know, I sort of like negated his numbers in the sense that I was able to like concentrate all of his forces in one place. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there's such like an undertold like sort of fascinating story actually. There might be somewhere, and like Yeah, it must have been made like quite a while ago though, I think. And can't remember if it was American made or Chinese. Yeah. Oh, Ben Affleck. Poss Possibly. Oh, I'm sure there must be a film for it though, but I can't remember what. Ah, fuck. That's just going to be on my mind for ages now. Shit. Oh. Um, I didn't really watch any films over Christmas though. I mean, oh yeah, what was it like? Was it any better? Yeah, 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 yeah. So like, what's the deal with though? Because like, obviously the film is about mobile cities fighting one another. Is that in the book? Yeah. Whereas from what I saw, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. What? Is it, how? I'm wondering how they. I'm wondering how they. I'm wondering how they would do that though, because that just seems really hard to like convey in like a visual sense. Yeah, yeah, Really? Yeah. That's why. Oh, God. Oh yeah. By the way, spoiler alerts. Before Phil fucking forgets to do it every time. Yes, like it does every time. Oh, hello. Yeah. 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 But in the film, I guess they made her just a bit too like pretty, really. Yeah. 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 I've said like sometimes films will need to make adaptations to the source material in order to like properly fit it onto the silver screen, but like at the same time, not necessarily everything can be cut out because sometimes some things will be so integral to the central theme of the story that you will either have to like make it into several parts, edit it down heavily, or just not make it. And an example of that would be, say, the World War Z film, where they basically changed pretty much everything about the original story to the extent that they might as well have just named it something else. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it it could be done. I think now that people have had a bit more time to like look back on nostalgia culture and also adaptation sort of media, I think people probably have a better idea of what they're doing now. But they just have to be a little bit self-aware. Um, like or at least have a bit more self-awareness than the creators of the Mortal Engines film did. Do you think there can ever be like a really truly untouchable adaptation film though? Yeah, and it's like yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is why which is why I appreciate spoofs so much because they always add something to it, while like essentially copying it, but like adding a comedic tone to it or like satirizing it. I mean, like, but then again, like if all adaptations were spoofs, you'd kind of be a bit overindulged and sort of saturated. So, uh, yeah, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's like kind of what I'm afraid of if like spoof films ever become so overly saturated that they kind of like lose their sort of luster or like kind of general sort of like purpose and appeal, which might be a little bit off left field, but like I do think it's possible. So like even though I kind of wish like for more adaptation films that are spoofs, I'm fully aware that like if we do it too much, there's a very real chance that it could end up just oversaturating the market for that sort of thing. Um, which and the same thing, arguably, you could also go for TV shows and video games that are also spoofs. Like there was arguably a bit of an oversaturation of spoof video games during the late '90s with games like um, Conker's Bad Fur Day and stuff like that. All of which are like good games, but you could feasibly make the argument that there were too many in too enclosed period of time. Like if say they had been spread out over like 14 years instead of just 4 or 5 years, like you arguably would have had more of them still being produced today than there were like just in that small period of like the late '90s. Which is annoying because like that kind of like game of like platformers or like puzzle games that are like darkly satirical in a very specific way are kind of very much non-existent now. Like, we... Yeah, but not necessarily for the better in a certain way. Like, I do wish there was still a lot of spoof games being made, because they have this sort of, like, that unique feel to them. What was that one with the where the main character was like a TV obsessed like gecko who came out of TV? Uh, oh, it it was a really popular gaming series that was mainly on the PlayStation 1, and oh god, I can't remember the name of it. What's his name? I'll remember it at some point, but it was a really popular series for like several years actually, and there was originally it was like I think a 2D platformer, then they made like a sequel, and then they made like 2 or 3 3D sequels actually, all of which were like pretty well received. And then they also released a European version actually with a really famous British actor, again I can't remember his name, who did the voice acting of the main character in the EU versions. Yeah, it's like I mean I get what you're saying. Like I guess like it's better to have more and more original IPs and ideas and creative sort of thought processes in video games than like have it all be spoofs. But I kind of do still wish there was that sort of thing in the gaming industry today. I just feel like the energy for that was all used up in the late 90s, which to me is a little bit sad because you don't see games like that anymore, and a lot of them were quite good. Yes, although Psychonauts was like more so released around the time that I'm mentioning. What Psychonauts? No, it wasn't. It was released like ages ago. Yeah, it was. Hang on a minute. I'm going to search this up on my phone actually, because I'm pretty sure it was released when I was still quite young. Well, still quite young. I mean, I'm only like 24, but to a certain degree of youth anyway. Um, uh, so let me just think a second. So. God, finally took out that bloody warship. So let's see. Psychonauts release date.
Here is information about the Psychonauts.
So let's see. It was released 2005. So it was actually fairly close to what you said actually originally. Yeah, and then A Hat in Time. That was A Hat in Time release date.
A Hat in Time's initial release date is the 5th of October 2017.
Oh, okay. So that's... Yeah, and that sort of had... to be fair, yeah, I guess that did have some spoof elements, although it was a bit more like... it was a bit more campy, in a sense, I personally felt. Though not, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you played a fair bit of A Hat in Time, though, didn't you? Oh, didn't you? I swear you played loads of it. That's fucking weird. Oh, actually, just going off on a side note, actually, and speaking of like remakes and reinterpretations, with some of the Christmas money I got for Christmas, I got the Nintendo 3DS remake of Metroid 2. And it's like the first like Metroid game I've properly played myself, and I've only played a little bit of it so far, but it's fucking excellent. It's such a good game. I'm gonna have to like hunt down like the 3DS remake of Super Metroid, which was the reboot of the first original Metroid game. Because just imagining seeing that on the wee crisp little graphics of the 3DS would be sublime, actually. I uh, I I still have like my PS2 somewhere, and I've also got my brother's PS1 at his place. But I mainly just use those as sort of like to like play older games. Really, like I think the main reason why I still have a Game Boy Advance and a Nintendo 3DS is so that I can have something on the go, like when I'm on long journeys, which they are excellent for. So I always take them on holiday with me. But like generally speaking, I'm a bit of an elitist PC Master Race kind of person. But the 3DS is genuinely, I would say, like one of the most well-rounded mobile sort of like handheld consoles ever made. The only major downside of it, I would say, is the fact that it's got a weirdly unique charger. So if your charger ever breaks, you have to get like a new one from like very specific places like CEX or the Nintendo gift store. And also the fact that the 3D on it fucking sucks. Yeah, exactly. So those are really the only two like major concerns I have with it. Although I would say like it's held up really well, even though the console has been out now for like what must be like 6 or 7 years now. Um, uh, Possibly, but and I remember it had come out only a very short time before a Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds came out, and that came out in 2013. Yeah, yeah, nice. Oh, I played a bit of Super Smash Brothers when I was round at a friend of mine's New Year's party actually in Peckham on New Year's Eve, and he had it set up in his living room. It's genuinely a really good fighting game. Um, the games I've got for my 3DS include at this point now include Pokemon Sapphire, um, Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. Uh, what else? Super Mario World 3D, and oh, then this weird one that I haven't played yet called Samurai Warriors, and then also Metroid 2: Samus Returns. I actually haven't played Samurai Warriors yet, though, even though I bought it when I was in America back in 2017. So it's just been sitting around for ages, even though I should have opened it realistically by now. But I mean, you're still like you still got big rocks on for what's it? Ocarina of Time, right? And you still, Jesus, really? I, why not? All right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh shit. Okay, cool. Sorry, I was just looking at Twitter and I just saw that Charlton Athletic have gone 1-0 up against Shrewsbury. Um, yeah, you are the saint, you lemon. Yeah, Leicester's main nickname is the Foxes. I just have this weird. You're winning by. Are you winning by just 1-0 or something? Yeah. God, yeah, no, that's a game you guys absolutely have to win, otherwise you could very well get relegated. Yeah, I mean, it's like sometimes. I mean, in the case of like someone like Southampton, like with the season you guys have been having, where it's been so like downhill for the most part, you might as well just throw defence to the wind and just go all out and just attack people like living banshees, because your defence is so bad, you might as well just like go full pelt at people and just try and score just one more goal than they can. I mean, it's like what Arsenal have been doing so far this season, but just at kind of like a higher level.
Good luck and fair seas. I owe you one. Good luck and fair seas. Acknowledged.
So 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 what? By like scoring more goals or having a better defence? Yeah, I don't know. You definitely need some like new like central players though. You need at least one better centre back, and you also need a striker who can score more than like 6 goals a season. Because like it's just like the thing is though, it's like you've got 3 very talented strikers in the form of Gabbiadini, Austin, and Long, and none of them have scored that many goals over the last couple of seasons. So you either need to get a sort of a guy who's really good at getting assists, so that those guys can get more goals, or have another striker who's just a rapid goal scorer who just always, not necessarily the most like uh, trickstery sort of like assisty sort of like striker, but it's just someone who like is just a raw, pure goal scorer and nothing else. Because I find like because I find yeah, again, yeah, again, that just baffles me as to why you let him go. That he was such a good player for you guys. Oh, Claude Puel. Yeah, yeah, and it was baffling as well. Like I said to you before we started recording, is that all right, he might not have been the absolute best Southampton manager ever in the Premier League, but like at the same time, he still got you guys to a League Cup final and got you playing in the Europa League against the likes of Inter Milan. It's just like, and like for a team the size of Southampton, that's pretty good going. So like, why he then got sacked, I'll never know. Although it's like, I think it was kind of inevitable when Mark Hughes got sacked, because he was just like, I think he was a great player, but like he just wasn't that good as a coach, I don't think. I mean, although you didn't necessarily share the same opinion, though, to be fair. Although, I was going to say, like, Mark Hughes was a really good player, but he was such a crap coach. Though, like, for some bizarre reason, you seem to, like, don't think so. Well, it kind of does in large part depend on the manager, though, as well, right? And, yeah. Well, although then again, like you might also have the case of like if you like keep giving the same manager chances over and over again, you could very well end up with the case where like they don't have like the incentive to like learn from their mistakes. Like if you sack them, arguably you're giving them the chance to like realize, right, what I was doing at that particular team wasn't working. So like obviously I need to do something different. Um, or like it could be beneficial for the players you already have after you've sacked a manager in that they realise, right, the way we were playing under that guy obviously wasn't working. Maybe we need a fresh approach. And like the thing is, it's like you can say like, oh, like you know, give them the opportunity to learn, but some people are set in their ways to the extent that they probably won't learn from their mistakes and will just kind of, you know, um, so it's a bit hard to like fully justify that. I think I can. No, it isn't. But the thing is, there is an element of like the manager being largely to sort of hold to account for like the success of a team in football because, right, for example, like in his last season at charge of Man United, Sir Alex Ferguson was in charge of quite possibly the weakest team he had in his time in charge at Man United, and yet they still managed to get to like the quarterfinals of the Champions League and win the league title as like the division's top scorers, and while playing some pretty attractive football as well. Yeah, yeah,
The enemy team has taken the lead.
yeah. Yeah, I mean the thing is, I do think there should be a certain element of forgiveness in these kind of situations, but at the same time, you've got to like just be realistic and just think like some managers are just not very good, and just like I just like as good of a guy he may be or as good of a player as he was, I just don't think Mark Hughes was ever going to be that good of a manager, really, to be quite honest. You know, he can attack really well because he was a striker when he was a player, but like in terms of managing, his teams have always just been really defensively up and down. Yeah, Yeah. 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 Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't really like that either. I do think, like, in that sense, that managers usually should be given a little bit more of a chance. Yeah, it's like it might not necessarily be their fault. It might not necessarily be a quality thing. It might just simply be that they don't get along with the players, or their play style doesn't suit the players they've got. Like the best example of that is Brian Clough at Leeds United, because he was a brilliant manager, but he just didn't fit in at Leeds, and they didn't particularly like him anyway to begin with. Yeah, yeah. No, he's kept up a decent career despite not necessarily always getting along with certain people. And even though he didn't always like find the most consistent success throughout his whole career, but I think I can't remember. I think yeah, I think so as well. Uh, I, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily matters which like. Well, like actually, the guy who currently manages Wolves, he used to be a goalkeeper. And Nigel Atkins, who was like in charge of Southampton when you guys first got promoted to the Premier League a few years ago, he used to be a goalkeeper. I think he's now in charge of Hull. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, it doesn't really like matter like what position like coaches are. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's like there could be any position really. Like people don't see like goalkeepers being that glamorous yet. Uh, Nuno Espirito de Santo is doing really well at Wolves, while strikers are seen as like the glamorous kind of like players on the pitch, and yet Thierry Henry is doing horribly at Monaco. I don't, yeah, he probably like wants to impose his ego on like some really big club. Although then again, like, will he really be a success? Because he does have like quite a big sort of persona that I don't know. That is true. Like yeah, there is that general consensus that in most team-based sports, not just football, you need to have like a big persona and a big sort of like level of confidence to manage football teams or like really any other sports team, because chances are you will, depending on what sport you're in or what club you're at, you will likely have at least one, two characters. It's like Arsene Wenger had to consistently do that throughout his career because he always had like big characters playing for him. And like that wasn't just like during his early years when he had that really amazing Arsenal team. It was also like during, just generally throughout his time at that club. but but yeah, no. So we've talked pretty extensively in this episode about football for some reason. I don't, yeah, I don't know why we keep getting on. I don't know why. It's usually my fault, to be fair, but like we usually get onto that at some point, and it's just like it's completely out of accident. Like, I'm sorry if like anyone watching this doesn't like football. It's just like we kind of do it out of somewhat of an accident. Although, um, me and my brother are soon going to be doing a football-based comedy podcast about this made-up team called North Schlipton United. And it's basically like about this like made up like league in the lower divisions of English football, like all these weirdly named football teams like North Schlipton United and Skaggerton Wanderers, and like just like really weirdly named like made up places in England. And like we've got like recurring characters. Like there's this one guy who just like intermittently appears every like 3 or 4 episodes. And his one character trait is that his wife keeps drugging him with cocaine in his morning porridge or whatever. And then, like, about halfway through the episode, you'll just hear, oh, and the current football match has been temporarily suspended because a naked man has run onto the pitch and is growling into the microphone. I don't have enough sugar in my porridge. And it's just like, just really weird shit like that just feels really out of place in a football show. I can't.
Yeah, that would be quite fun to hear. You can sort of into yourself.
Well, my brother. Yeah, something like that. My brother actually. He isn't strictly a musician, although he is quite good at playing a few different instruments. But whereas I'm more of a video editor, my brother is much better at editing audio. And he has like really good knowledge of Audacity, and whereas like my main platforms of getting my content out, of course, are YouTube and Blogspot. My brother, he makes a lot of use of SoundCloud. So like, if he has like a lot of like podcasts that he uploads on like things like Utopia and like comedy and stuff on SoundCloud, and he's much more of like a radio kind of guy than me. Like if we actually went professional in like the entertainment industries, I feel much more like I would probably be like in visual media and he would probably be in radio or like audio books. It's like which is weird though, because like we both have very similar voices, but it's just we have very different ways of speaking. And it's just always been something that's really interested me. Yeah, oh yeah, I was going to say it's exactly like that, because like anyone who knows me knows my sense of humor is quite a bit weird and outlandish, whereas my brother's sense of humor is very British and dry and just like very sort of like just like awkward, but not in like an unintentional way, but like in a purposeful way. So it's like very British-esque. And like whenever we like listen to recordings we've made together where those two ideas clash, it always just makes us laugh. So we've tried to like more recently like try and like write down ideas for like sound podcasts so we can actually make something out of it. Although it's like I do sometimes kind of feel sorry for my brother's wife, because she'll just sometimes listen to us having conversations on the train or at their place, and it's just like she just looks so fucking weirded out, or like just finds it not funny at all. It's like just thinking like, God, these two are fucking weird. It's like, it's just like, oh great, I married into a family of fucking lunatics. But I think like. I think it's interesting sometimes when you find like comedy duos who have like similar but slightly different sets of comedic ideals. Like that's the reason why I love watching the Game Grumps so much, because they clearly have very similar tastes, but for arguably different reasons. So their way of expressing comedy and comedic ideas is somewhat different, as is their delivery. So hence the reason why they make such a good couple, and why I like watching them so much. Actually, they've been around for fucking ages. Originally, it was Egoraptor and JonTron, and now it's Egoraptor and his mate Dan Avidan, who's and yeah, he's been for ages. He was doing musical and animation based stuff, and he still does it now and again, just not as often. He literally never did a single thing about Minecraft. I don't even know if I've ever heard. I think you might be thinking of Toby Turner, or like whatever his name was. I can't remember. I think he was like accused of rape at some point, and his career's kind of gone downhill a bit. But yeah, no, no, but yeah, no, no, Egoraptor is someone completely different. I don't. He's never made a Minecraft related song. Like his songs are always yeah. Yeah, the guy who made like the Minecraft songs is like called Toby something, and then like a couple of years ago he was accused of rape, and like it kind of like derailed his career. But Aaron Hansen, or AKA Egoraptor, is like he also does like animation and music based stuff, although his is always mainly centered on things like Nintendo based, or he's also yeah, he's done Metroid. He's also done a few on the Metal Gear Solid series as well. He's done yeah, and he originally found his like start on Newgrounds because before YouTube became a really big thing. And he's to be honest with you, he's still quite big on there now, even still like after years of mainly concentrating on Game Grumps with Dan Avidan, who is basically his best buddy and like right hand man. It's like yeah, no, like, and Dan Avidan, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He runs he's the main head of like or like lead singer of like a comedic band called Ninja Sex Party, and a lot of his I mean, I can't say everyone will like it, but like I really like his music because of a lot of it is quite it appeals to my sense of humour of being quite absurdist and also just really like out there and kind of creative in a sort of very funky way, and even more so because a lot of it's sex related as well. So, but yeah, no, yeah, it's like him and Aaron Hansen both have like very sort of similar comedic tastes and sort of interests, but you can tell they both have a very different way of delivering things. So like, it's interesting to hear them like interact on Game Grumps because you can tell they've got similar ideas and interests and stuff, but the way they combine the two together is slightly different. So like, it's not like you're just getting the same joke over and over again. You're getting like one reaction and then another in slightly different ways. So that's part of the reason why I like watching them so much, because they have a very good rapport between them. It's like to be honest with you, actually, like their comedic style and way of presenting things is like arguably what I've taken the most inspiration from in order of like how I now present my videos over the last year or two. Um, yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm not going to say that for absolutely everyone, like, because everyone at the end of the day has different tastes, but I would still say, like, just check them out and see what you think. Yeah, like, not really. I mean, I kind of need to go and take a shit anyway, so, no, Phil, I just said I need to go take a shit, otherwise I'll die of dysentery on my fucking computer chair. Um, what? I'm not that fucking lazy. Alright, well, you know what, fuck it, alright. Enough, you fucking damaged my ego now enough anyway, but, alright, so, we hope you've enjoyed this shitty episode of episode of the Gitcast podcast. Everyone watching at home, be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. In particular, leave a comment if you want us to discuss any particular issues, topics, or themes in the future for any future episodes, as well as also any future video suggestions just in general for me to do on this channel. As always as well, be sure to check out my social media platforms and other YouTube channels in the video description below, as well as Philip's YouTube channel in the video description below, where he reviews books amongst other things. So yeah, until next time, stay safe, have fun with whatever you're doing, don't do anything we wouldn't do, and we hope you had a great 2019. We hope you will have a great 2019. And until next time, I've been Gitbag the Great. Yeah, and also a belated Happy Christmas to everyone who celebrated it. And we'll see you guys next time on the battlefield. Bye-bye for now. Alright, time to go take a big donkey doo-doo shit.